everybody. A very good morning, dear students. I hope you all are doing well and safe at home today. So the chapter which we were studying was chapter 10, Respiration in Organisms. So the topics that we are going to study today are gaseous exchange, concepts of sneezing and yawning, respiratory disorders or diseases. So are you all ready? Let's begin the class. So the first topic is gaseous exchange. Now during breathing, oxygen which are rich reaches the body, the lungs, the alveoli, and that is where the exchange of gases takes place. Now exchange of gases takes place at two levels. So we classify it as number one, pulmonary gaseous exchange, which is between the air and the blood, or we can say the alveoli and the blood vessels. And the second one is in the tissue level. So the gaseous exchange takes place in the tissues. Now the pulmonary gaseous exchange is external. Whereas the gaseous exchange in the tissues are internal. Before we take up to the exchange of gases, we need to understand the term partial pressure. Which we also call as PP, partial pressure. It is defined as the pressure exerted by a gas in the mixture of gaseous is respective of the concentration of other gases. So every gas in the air has some partial pressure. Now let us take the partial pressure of air that we breathe and then the partial pressure of air that is in different gases, that is in the alveoli. Now why we have to understand this is for a specific reason. Now the air that we take in or inhale is partial pressure, that is partial pressure which we call it as PP. Here we are talking about the main gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide, which we inhale. Now the air which comes into the alveoli, we call it as alveolary air, that is alveolar air that we take in, that we inhale. Now children, in this process, some air remains in the respiratory tract. After we exhale, there is some gas present in the tract. When the fresh air we inhale, it mixes with the air that is already present in our respiratory tract. Now that gas or that air has more of carbon dioxide. because carbon dioxide is taking place continuously compared to oxygen. So the partial pressure of inhale oxygen and carbon dioxide is different as compared to the partial pressure of the same two gases, that is in alveolar air. To understand this exchange of gases, we will draw a schematic diagram which will help us to understand the exchange of gases. Now children, this path will explain the circulation of blood. Here is the lungs where we inhale the gases and where alveoli is present. And here we will have the tissues. And this is where the respiration in tissues will take place. So as we studied before, in this in the gaseous exchange, that is in the lungs, is known as external respiration or external gaseous exchange, and in the tissues is known as the internal respiration or internal gaseous exchange. Now this is the circulation, and here the blood will pass through the chambers of the heart. It will go through the chambers of the heart, and we will draw only those chambers. We will discuss only those chambers, and we will see how the oxygen passes through the chambers as well as the carbon dioxide, which are associated with the particular gaseous exchange. Now this structure, as we see, where we have the alveoli. So we have already seen that in the alveoli, partial oxygen, that is partial pressure of air, is taken. The blood that is taken inside by the lungs is deoxygenated blood. So this blood, that is deoxygenated blood, is brought by the pulmonary artery. So this is the pulmonary artery from where deoxygenated is brought by the pulmonary artery. And during the deoxygenated blood is carried from the pulmonary artery. Okay, during this process where the exchange of gases is taking place, tissues are active and continuously using oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. So at this level, the PCO2, that is partial pressure of oxygen, is very less, as they are used up by many organs. Now here, as we studied, when the deoxygenated blood comes from the pulmonary artery, it has less amount, it has less partial pressure, and after the exchange of gases, the partial pressure of oxygen increases and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide decreases. Now again, from here, when it comes to the tissue, it is observed by the tissue, the oxygen is used by the tissue, and again the partial pressure of oxygen decreases, it goes to the lower amount here by the tissues, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide increases. Now this is again the gaseous exchange at the second level, that is at the tissue level. Now the blood is brought into the heart by superior or inferior vena cava, which is the main vessels which bring the main deoxygenated blood from various body parts into the heart. So it is coming from it is going from here to vena cava. From the chambers of heart, it will go to the right ventricle. Here we have the right ventricle, and from right ventricle it will be taken by the pulmonary artery to the lungs. That means it will again go to the lungs, where we inhale, where the alveoli is present. And this is the whole process of gaseous exchange, where gaseous exchange takes place in two portion, that is in the alveoli where the lungs is present, and in the tissue level, where where the deoxygenated blood comes from the pulmonary level, and then it goes to the tissue level, and again it goes to the pulmonary level. Now this is the whole cycle. Now there is a whole cycle of gaseous exchange. Now another interesting thing we actually feel or sense sometimes is sneeze. Where we catch cold, that time it becomes more frequent. But even when we are keeping well, we tend to sneeze. So what causes sneezing? Now when any kind of germs, dust, pollen grains, etc., all these unwanted particles get inside and irritates the nose lining. However, we all know that we have cilia and mucus present in our nose, which does not allow these unwanted particles to enter our lungs, to enter inside our body. But they can enter very easily in the nasal cavity. Where the lining of the nostrils are present. So when it reaches there, when it irritates our nose, a signal is sent to the brain to get rid of the unwanted particle that is present and that enters our nostrils. So as per the message sent to the brain, we take a deep breath and breathe out very strongly, which is a sneeze. So this is how sneezing occurs in our body, when there is a irritation in the nostrils, when unwanted particle enters in the lining of the nostrils. Now we will be looking at any one disorder from each category. First, let's talk about the third category, that is obstructive respiratory disorder. So in this, let's see what are allergies. This is one obstructive respiratory disorder, that is allergies. Allergies are defined as hypersensitive of a person to act allergen. Allergen is a substance that causes allergies in a body. Now, what are the most allergen substance that causes the allergies are dust particles, the dust from the atmosphere, pollen grains, any items that are related to cosmetics, any food items that causes allergies in our body. even to some chemical substances. For example, any kind of medicine, we get allergies in our body. So that allergy are caused by a substance known as allergen. I hope children you are not yawning when your class is going on. Now, why do we yawn? Have you ever noticed or observed when we feel sleepy, we yawn? Even when we are bored, we yawn. So why do we yawn? What makes us yawn? First of all, let's see what is yawn. I mean, what do you mean when we yawn while we are yawning? It is like you open your mouth wide to breathe deeply. You try to notice it will you will yawn while you are actually trying to breathe deeply. If we try to go deep into the reason of yawning, we see there exist a lot of theories from different person prospects. One of these theories tells us that the reason behind yawning is because of the circulatory system. So whenever we yawn, it causes an increase in the blood pressure. Now, when blood pressure increases, our heart rate also increases. And when that increases, the blood circulation also increases. And when this increases, the oxygen supply also increases in our body. So, to improve the overall motor function and all alertness while yawning, like you must have observed, when you yawn, after you yawn, you are alert. There is a alertness in your brain. So it makes us more alert. So that is why when we are yawning, we breathe more deeply. So this is the reason behind yawning. Respiratory system in earthworm. Earthworm performs cutaneous respiration through its moist skin. Cutaneous means a form of respiration in which gaseous exchange occurs through skin. It keeps the skin moist with the help of exudation. Which is a body fluid occurring through dorsal pores in the earthworm. Now, exudation is a discharge of certain elements of the in the body, blood from the blood to the tissue. Let me explain it one more to you. Exudation is a discharge of certain elements of the blood into the tissues. Now, earthworm do not require any special organ for respiration, as the surface area of skin is sufficient for this process. In the skin, if the skin of earthworm dries, it will die due to If the skin of earthworm dries, it will die due to asphyxia, which is a deficient supply of oxygen in the body. So this is very simple to understand, children, that the respiratory system in earthworm, they don't need any particular organ for respiration. They breathe through their skin.